Filmmakers for today, Astrid Rondero and Fernanda Valadez. And we'll be joined shortly on screen by our wonderful moderator for the evening, Andrea Riseborough. Well, thank you, everybody. Really, it's an honor for us to be here and that you stayed at the end. It's a huge honor for Fernanda and me. And to have Andrea here, I don't know if she's listening to us, but we admire you so much.
Can you hear me, Astrid and Fernanda?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. I can't see you, but I imagine I'm horribly omnipresent on a big screen or something. I apologise deeply for that. But I want to say, and please let me do the introductions. Thank you so much for letting me be here, because I think this is such a bold and brave and quiet and beautiful piece of cinema, and it leads with the heart, and it's such a rare beauty. So I'm really, really happy to talk about it. Thank you for making it. And I'll move on to my first question, which basically is, I think we get such an amazing opportunity in art, not only in art, I mean in film. As an example, when you make a film, you get to explore the essence of something or ask a question that you might not have a conversation about with perhaps everybody in life. You know, you may have a conversation with the people closest to you, but you might not. When you make a film, you really ask a series of questions inadvertently, because everything fires off in your synapses when you watch a film with an audience member. And so this is, I suppose it's kind of an origin question, but what was the essence or the thought, and it could have been a collection of things that you wanted to explore in making this film?
Well, thank you, Andrea. Well, at the beginning, it was a dream about a horse. That's how it started. And the horse was so beautiful that at some point I imagined that a young boy seeing this horse could be as beautiful as that horse. So after that dream, we were preparing identifying features. Our previous film, Fernanda was the director on that beautiful film. But we were making interviews with young boys in the communities that are really hit by the drug wars in Mexico. And their stories were so hard and beautiful at the same time, and much of those kids were beginning to work for the local cartels. That I told Fernanda that, of course, with identifying features we couldn't talk about that, but that we should be writing a story of what it meant to be a young man growing up in Mexico in the drug wars. So that's how it all started.
It sounds so universal in that way, because I mean, it may seem to somebody who might have grown up in a place where there's lots of choice that there is a choice. But it seems to me very much like, as in so many places in the world, in the majority of the world, there isn't a choice. It made me think of lots of things. It made me think of displaced people. It made me think of Sudan. It made me think of really boys all over the globe who are forced into things that they really have no control over. And so I wonder if you talk a little bit about that, about I feel in the film a sense of deep frustration at the inability to have any sort of choice. Is that something that you felt when you were making the film? Is it something you wanted to express?
Oh, thank you, Andrea. Like Astrid said, we're really moved that you are doing this for us, and we have an incredible and deep admiration for your work. So really grateful. And definitely, when we were talking to those kids, I mean, there were not only underage. Some of them were 13 years old. Some of them were 15, and they had already tried to cross the border with the U.S. and they were turned back. Some of them were planning to move to the big cities in Mexico. And some of them were finding out, coming back to their communities, that their chances in life were really, really limited. So we wanted to talk about this kind of recruitment that is cultural, but in the end it's also enforced, because the options are very, very narrow. So beyond and besides the pain of growing up, of a young man trying to find a place in the world, there was this other layer of finding that they were probably going to die before 30 years old. So we wanted to talk about that, but not with prejudice, but trying to understand that when these kids become perpetrators, they were also innocent at some point in life, and society owed them everything that they needed to grow up.
Yes, although the protagonist in the film is a young man, it almost seems like the entire film is framed almost in a feminine frame. It's from a very feminine perspective, from a very from a place of real empathy and community and understanding, and love. And also, I'd love for you to talk, if you can, about the cinematography. Just that it feels like there's a conversation between nature, what is the natural order of things, and what has become the natural order of things through society, which is this freedom that this little boy has, and the play, and really living in a world where you imagine you are free, but really you're not, because there's a path that are ordained for you. I wanted to talk about how you managed to capture so beautifully, and the cinematographer managed to capture the perspective. It feels almost like, as you're watching the film, what's predestined and what's natural are battling each other, and that the camera is the perspective of the child growing up, and even as he matures, his perspective still has the remnants of being very innocent. It always retains that innocence, and I'd just love to know how you and the cinematographer achieved that.
Do you want me to answer about the females, which is something it's a very good question, and for us this is the first time that we write a man. It's the first protagonist, a male protagonist that we have, and we feel so much for him with a lot of love. It almost feels for us that it's an actual person. So I think that it was just natural for Fernanda and me to write and surround him with women. But also that's something that really happens in Mexico. Those rural communities are really touched by migration and by enforced recruitment. So there are not that many older men in communities. So these young men are raised mainly by women. And the other thing that we wanted to say with these women helping him out is that women are a very important symbol in our country of resistance. In fact, our previous film talked about women looking for their children. So at some point, these women that are looking for the disappeared people in Mexico turn into social activists. So that's why, I guess, we surround Sujo with women. The other thing is, I guess, that we come really forward when we say, I don't know what it feels to be a man, but I think there's another way. That's something that Nemesia, the aunt, says to Sujo at some point in the story. So we feel really inspired by women in this film. And working with Jimena, it's just a team of it's been forming for many years. We've been working together for a long time, but I guess that Fernanda really likes to answer that question.
Well, between the two of us, actually, it's always a little bit more on the side of the actors and a little bit more on the side of the technical